Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. My name's Don Arleth, and now it's time for Midday Report here on TVP World, so let's get started. U.S., Ukraine, EU talks in Geneva have now come to an end, and negotiators say that an updated peace framework has been drawn up after 2 days of intense discussions, although no details have been released. What is clear is that Ukraine and its European partners have pushed back hard against the most contentious points of the original outline, setting the stage for a sharper, more united response as diplomacy moves into its next phase.
Counter-proposal for peace in Ukraine has done more than slow the push from Washington and Moscow. It has flipped the board. As TVP World expert explains, Kyiv and Europe have now seized back the diplomatic initiative, reshaping a plan that once looked dangerously close to forcing Ukraine into painful concessions.
Not only does this Ukraine-European counterproposal have legs, it may have regained the diplomatic initiative from the Kremlin and the Kremlin's allies in the Trump administration.
The shift came in Geneva, where US and Ukrainian teams worked to rewrite a leaked 28-point outline, widely criticized as far too generous to Moscow. Washington and Kyiv called the discussions highly productive, though several central issues, including long-term security guarantees, remain unsolved. For Europe, the revisions marked a turning point. Germany's Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul was the first to claim victory. He said the talks delivered a, quote, decisive success for Europeans, removing all provisions that touched on NATO and EU matters without European involvement. Berlin had insisted no deal should be reached over the heads of Europeans and Ukrainians, and now says the red line has been met. On the ground in Kyiv, optimism is scarce. The first leaks of the original plan, which demanded territorial concessions, limits on Ukraine's army and a pledge to stay out of NATO, struck many Ukrainians as unacceptable.
I don't believe that there will be lasting peace after these negotiations, because there's a side that cannot be trusted.
Trump's special plan is in general a capitulation for Ukraine. I think the Ukrainian people will not agree. Well, there have been so many of these agreements, but no results.
President Zelensky says the core issue remains unchanged. Russia wants legal recognition for land it has already taken. Ukraine says it will not happen and insists further revisions must strengthen accountability, not weaken it. The Kremlin, meanwhile, claims it has not received any official update or does not wish to discuss media plans. Across Europe, officials are sharpening the language. Lithuania's foreign minister, Kęstutis Budrys, warned that any settlement involving a handover of Ukrainian land would cross a line no democratic state can accept.
We have to commit to fundamentals, and those fundamentals are sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence of Ukraine. And if we put the theft of territory into any agreement, this is the betrayal of international law.
As negotiators wrapped up the meeting, the diplomatic terrain has shifted, but the war that shapes it has not.
No agreement or peace terms can favor the aggressor, said Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, as leaders of the European Union and the African Union member states meet in Angola for the 7th EU-AU summit. Our Africa correspondent Sofia Ba reports from the Angolan capital of Luanda.
Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk says that he does not know whether or not we are getting any closer to peace in Ukraine, as everything stays in the hands of Vladimir Putin, President Volodymyr Zelensky, and President of the United States, Donald Trump. After meeting this morning with European leaders here in Angola, he does confirm that the European Union stays united for the fight for peace in Ukraine. I asked the Prime Minister Donald Tusk about the outcome of today's meeting with EU leaders in Luanda.
What's the message after today's meeting that you want to send to the world about the peace? Are we closer to getting peace in Ukraine?
I am not sure if we are closer to the peace, because it's not only if it was just our will and our intention, it would be done, but unfortunately, the decision is in the hands of Putin, President Trump, of course, President Zelensky, not only or not mainly in our European hands. One thing is absolutely clear today. Europe is united, and the European unity is crucially important here. And, without this, we would be in deep troubles. Also Poland. And for me, maybe today the only optimistic signal was that the EU is really, really united, in fact, in every detail.
Prime Minister Donald Tusk also emphasizes that there is no room for optimism at this moment and reminds us that some of the 28 points leaked by media outlets last week are not acceptable in his perspective. For example, the one stipulating that NATO fighter jets may be stationed in Poland. He insists that no decision regarding Poland's military situation can be made without Poland's approval. Just like, according to him, absolutely no condition can favor the aggressor. Donald Tusk stays determined to settle the issue of frozen assets by the end of the year. Sofia Ba, Luanda, TVP World.
Yesterday's meeting in Geneva between U.S., Ukraine, and EU representatives signaled fresh momentum in peace talks. While key issues like sanctions and asset freezes still require EU decisions, the decision is positive. And Europe remains committed to supporting President Zelensky diplomatically, militarily, and economically. This, of course, is according to European Council President Antonio Costa.
There is a new momentum in peace negotiations. Yesterday's meeting in Geneva between the United States, Ukraine, the European Union institutions and European representatives marked significant progress. We welcome this step forward, and some issues remain to be resolved, but the direction is positive. And we commend the efforts of Presidents Zelensky and Trump and their teams. It is also clear that the issues that concern directly the European Union, such as sanctions, enlargement, or immobilized assets, require the full involvement and decision by the European Union. The European Union is committed to continue providing President Zelensky with all the support he needs: diplomatic support, military support, economic support.
While the U.S. and Ukrainian delegations were holding negotiations on Sunday in Geneva, Russian forces launched massive drone strike on Kharkiv. 4 people died and 17 more were wounded as a result. And 500 kilometers to the west, Ukraine's Chernihiv also faced a wave of attacks. Oz Chatterjee in Kyiv has more.
As negotiations continue between the Ukrainians, Europeans and Americans about a potential peace proposal to end the Russian war on Ukraine, Russia has continued to strike targets inside Ukraine. Local authorities in the Kharkiv region in the north of Ukraine report that 4 people have been killed and 17 others injured, an 11 and 12-year-old child among those injured, after Russia targeted 6 different locations 15 different times in a massive drone attack against the northern Ukrainian city. So while these negotiations are ongoing, Russia continues to target civilian infrastructure. 3 residential buildings and further civilian infrastructure was targeted in Kharkiv. In Chernihiv, Ukrainians are living without power for about 14 hours a day after the Russians have continued to target Ukrainian energy infrastructure in that part of Ukraine. So again, we're heading into a difficult winter period with Ukrainian energy infrastructure under routine Russian bombardment as the Ukrainians and Europeans try to hash out a better deal for the Ukrainians to put forward in these peace proposals to the Russians. It's Oz Chatterjee reporting from Kyiv for TVP World.
Synisha Karan has emerged as the winner in Republica Srpska's presidential election, though official confirmation is expected in 5 days. Backed by Milorad Dodik, who was removed from office by Bosnia's court, Karan is widely seen as a loyalist poised to continue Dodik's hardline politics. For more, we go to our Balkans correspondent, Pavel Trzaskowski, for this report.
The citizens of Republica Srpska have chosen. The next president of the entity will be Sinisa Karan, who was appointed as a candidate by Milorad Dodik, who was removed from the office by the verdict of the Bosnian court. And Sinisa Karan is almost guaranteed to continue his mentor's disruptive politics.
I will continue where we left off. I will not allow a break in power, and this represents precisely the continuity of this power that has lasted for 3 years. I'll continue with even greater determination, and together we will continue to build a Republica Srpska.
Karan's victory ensures that Milorad Dodik will be able to shape politics in Republica Srpska despite a 6-year ban on holding any office in the entity.
Dodik remains leader of the party of which Karan is a member. He holds all the levers of power. He has all the advantages of incumbency, even though he's no longer president. Karan is the current interior minister of Republika Srpska, so the person controlling the police, the security apparatus. He's a loyalist.
Karan will hold the office until general elections in October next year. Milorad Dodik will still be unable to run in this election. However, he's proven that his stand-ins can do the job for him. From Banja Luka in Republika Srpska in Bosnia and Herzegovina, I'm Pavel Trzaskowski.
U.S. President Donald Trump has sent trade envoys to Brussels to finalize EU-U.S. trade deal with European finance ministers. Europe seeks to lower tariffs on aluminum and steel, while the U.S. wants to eliminate tariffs on agricultural and industrial goods. Progress, however, remains slow. Here's more from our EU correspondent Angela Skujins in Brussels.
The European Union and the United States are hoping to finalise the joint statement of the transatlantic trade deal, which was signed by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and US President Donald Trump in July in Scotland. While this document was agreed upon months ago, some of the details of the deal has yet to be legislated. The European Commissioner for Trade, Maroš Šefčovič, stated on his way into those high-level talks in the Belgian capital that he wants a better outcome for steel and aluminium, which is facing import levies in the United States of up to 50%. He wants this slashed, as promised, to 15%.
We also recognize that more work lies ahead, especially on steels and derivatives, where we seek both to reduce tariff and to confront global overcapacity together. And this is a priority area for the EU.
On this side of the Atlantic, as part of that joint statement, the EU agreed to lower tariffs completely on American agricultural goods such as pork, as well as other industrial products. However, due to the glacial pace of EU policy, some of these items still have not been legislated within the European Parliament. The Polish Trade Undersecretary Michał Baranowski conceded that there are delays on the EU side. However, when he was asked by journalist at the European Council building why the US was slow regarding slashing tariffs on steel and aluminium, this is what he said in response.
One of my questions to our American friends.
There will be a press conference scheduled at 3 p.m. on Monday, delivered by the European Commissioner for Trade, Maroš Šefčovič, as well as his American counterparts. We're hoping for some good news, as well as the finalisation regarding this joint statement between these two transatlantic trade titans. Angela Skujins from Brussels for TVP World.
Polish authorities say SIM cards found in phones used to record and transmit data from the sabotage of Polish railway tracks a week ago had been activated several years ago. The Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Czesław Mroczek, says that this proves that the sabotage was a complex operation, carefully prepared over a long period of time. A week ago, acts of sabotage targeted the Warsaw-Dorohusk railway line. On November 15th, an explosion destroyed a railway track in Mika. The following day, a train carrying 475 passengers had to brake sharply near the Goldap railway station due to damage to the overhead electrical lines. Last Wednesday, Poland's National Prosecutor's Office charged 2 Ukrainian citizens in connection with the case. They're accused of carrying out acts of sabotage on behalf of Russia. One of them, Yerevin Ivanov, who was recruited by Russian military intelligence a year ago and then sentenced by a court in Lviv for preparing an attack on a drone manufacturing plant. Polish authorities also detained 4 other Ukrainians suspected of being involved in the sabotage, but released them 48 hours later. And that concludes this edition of Midday Report. Thank you for joining us and hope to see you next time. Goodbye.